Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. 2 weeks ago, we showed how to lay plastic sheet mulch. Today, we are planting vegetables in that mulch. Also, we are planting a container herb garden. That's just ahead on the Family Plot Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Peter Richards. Peter is our local gardener.
Hey.
Thanks for being with us, Peter.
Oh, thanks.
All right, so what are we about to do?
Yeah, so we've put down these mulches.
Yeah.
And now we have to plant our plants. Now, a lot of times it's easiest to plant your plants after you put the mulch down, because then you don't have to fit the mulch around the plant.
Right.
So that's what we did here, especially with these sheet mulches, which is what we're going to be planting in today.
Okay.
You want to make sure you put the mulch down first and then plant through it.
Right.
So all 6 of these sections of our garden are going to be planted the same. So we're going to put the same plants in each so we can kind of compare how the mulches do.
Okay.
So what we're going to have is we have 3 rows. We're going to have 1 row of flowers. Okay. We're going to have 1 row that is tomato and 2 pepper plants. And we're going to have 1 row that is some beans and watermelon.
Got it.
And so we just go ahead and start planting, I guess.
Okay, let's go ahead and do it.
So on this particular section, this is going to be our flowers, so we're not going to worry about that. We're going to plant those another time.
Got it. Okay.
Let's do our tomatoes our tomatoes and peppers first. And for this kind of mulch, the easiest way to do it is to just cut a little cross.
Yeah.
So I do have irrigation in here, irrigation lines. So there's one of my lines right there. I want to make sure that I'm close to the line, but I don't cut the line.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good. So it's pretty easy. All I do is I just make a little cross here. And now I have the soil exposed.
Okay, so just wide enough to put the plant material in it.
Yeah, just wide enough to put the plant material in there. We have Better Bush tomatoes that we're going to plant. These are determinate, meaning that they will grow to a certain size, pretty much stop growing, and then put on all of their fruit at once.
Okay.
The reason why we're doing this is because we do have a limited space here, and honestly, I didn't want to build 6 tomato trellises.
Right, I got you, because you definitely need them.
Yeah.
For indeterminates.
So we chose the determinate.
Okay.
So it's nicely rooted.
Yeah, good root system.
Yep. So I'm just going to go ahead and.
Okay. So we don't have to plant them too deep, right?
Nope, just plant them at the depth that it was built, that it was in the nursery. Although these are tomatoes, so I am going to plant it a little deeper.
Just a little bit. Okay.
Because all the little hairs on the side of a tomato plant can be roots if they're underground. So I'm just going to go ahead and plant that a little deeper than it was in the pot.
Okay. And we got that right next to your...
Yep, and our irrigation line is right here.
Okay.
So that should get lots of water.
Good. It's right there. So we'll just... Again with the cross.
Yep, just a cross right there. And once you've started it, if you need it a little bigger, you can just go ahead and kind of stretch it a little bit.
And it does stretch.
Yep.
So there's some give.
And so with these though, I do want to plant them at container depth for the peppers. And once again, really nice roots. I'm just going to kind of tease those up just a little bit. And plant that right there.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's a bell pepper.
Yeah, let's make sure we get this nut sedge out of there.
Oh yes, that's good.
Yeah.
Because nut sedge will take advantage of any open spot you have, and this area does have a lot of nut sedge. Okay, so those are plants that came in pots.
Okay.
We're also going to plant beans and watermelons.
Got it. And we've been doing
we're going to do that over there. Okay. So let me grab the seed packets here. Okay. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to plant the watermelon here so that it can run into our walkways and kind of use this space as opposed to running out onto the grass.
So this is going to sprawl.
So so here's our irrigation line right here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this a little different. I'm just going to cut a slit right here.
All right.
And then grab my trowel here, and we're going to go ahead. And
so you're going to mount it up a little bit?
I'm not really going to mount it that much. What I'm going to do is I just basically did a trench.
Okay.
Once these come up and we've chosen our plants, go ahead and put one of the staples that's holding the plastic down right there to just kind of keep this from, you know, opening up more and letting more weeds grow.
Okay, I got it.
So we'll do that.
Makes sense.
Okay, now we got string beans.
All
Yes,
right.
so these are pole beans.
Okay.
And this is going to,
Yeah.
we're gonna go ahead and plant 2 rows. So here's our irrigation line right here. And we're gonna plant 2 rows, and they're gonna be kind of longer because, you know, beans, you need a lot of plants. Just,
And Peter, as you're doing that, the sun has popped out, and you can definitely feel the heat coming off of this plastic.
yes, part of our experiment here is I'm really curious to know how these plants do with such a dark surface that they're growing in. Because I could easily see that possibly some of these plants are gonna die from the heat.
Heat. Yeah.
But we'll find out.
Yeah,
That's why we're doing this experiment. And I'm doing about 2 inches
About
apart.
2 inches. All right.
4 inches is what they'll grow at, so that gives me some options when it comes to thinning. So this is the landscape fabric.
Right.
It's kind of has the texture of a light tarp. It does let the light through.
Right.
Or excuse me, not the light through. It does let some water through.
Yeah.
There's another option. With this, you can use a torch and just burn holes in the sheet. Now, one of the other advantages of using the torch is that because this is woven, when you cut it, it likes to fray.
Yeah.
If you burn it, it's not going to fray.
No fray.
Because it melts the edge.
Got it.
What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this
Oh.
and there we
Look
go.
at that.
Burned a hole in
Look at that. Easy.
the plastic. Yeah.
Okay.
It's really easy. Now, in a minute, I'll show you how to do it with a knife too,
Okay.
because not everybody has a blowtorch.
Right. Got it in there.
Put the tomato in.
There you go.
The other nice thing about the blowtorch is if you know exactly where your stuff's going to be, you can just go through and go burn, burn, burn,
Yeah.
burn,
Quick
burn,
and
burn,
easy.
burn. Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah.
For this next one though, same thing as the other one, we're just going to cut an X.
And that was the fray that you're talking about.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
if you notice,
right.
like it's really frayed
Yeah,
here.
sure is.
You could, if you wanted to, you could get a lighter or something like that and melt the edges, kind of like you would a rope, just to keep the fray from coming out. I'm going to go ahead and just tuck this under here, but yeah, this is,
Yeah, it's a lot.
yeah.
Yeah. Right next to the line. Good.
Yep, so it should get lots of good water.
So good.
Now, I will say, ouch, it is a little warm still, but not terrible.
Not terrible.
So now let's go over and do our beans and our watermelons. I'm gonna go ahead and use a torch again. Okay. So there we go. Notice no fraying at all.
Okay.
So we're gonna trench here. So we'll put our 5 seeds in here. That's 1, 2, 3,
Wow.
4, 5.
Almost can't see those.
Yeah, no, they're the same color as the soil for sure. Okay, so there's those now. I'm going to,
See it?
where's my line? Here's my line. So I'm going to take my drip line and I'm going to put it right there. Okay, so now let's do the beans. We're going to cut this hole instead of burning it. Let's see here, there's our tube right there. Yep, so we're going to do one right here.
Yeah.
And we'll do another one right here. Okay.
All right.
So one of the things is if you are good enough, I'm not, to cut right down the line, the fraying is minimal. You do have some here, and it will likely continue to fray through the summer.
Yeah.
You know, this will probably become totally threadbare by the end, but
No, it
that's
definitely
okay.
will, under the heat.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So there we go. So now we have our test planted in synthetic mulch here. Let's actually, since we can, let's go ahead and drag our irrigation hose right between those two.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so all we need to do now is we're going to need to water
Okay.
and then just take care of any weeds that do come up. There will be a couple,
There will be some.
but this should keep down most of the weeds.
Okay. We shall see. Thank you, Peter, for the demonstration.
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right. All right. Let's talk a little bit about phototoxicity. This is insecticidal soap. you should not use this product on bright, sunny days. It will tell you so on the label, which is why we always say read and follow the label. You should also not use pesticides when the temperatures are above 85 degrees. That will be on the label as well. If you do so, that will cause burning of the leaf tissue and also cause death of the plant. So again, always read and follow the label.
All right, Joellen, container planting.
Yes.
So you're going to get us started.
Yes,
And I'm sure
ma'am.
you know all about planting these containers, don't you?
Yes, I've planted many over the years.
I know you have. So how do we get started?
Well, I am going to add some soil moist crystals to our container. This will help in keeping the plants with water throughout the summer when it's hot. And I've used them for many years. They
Okay.
do a great job. What's very interesting, kids actually love these because look how small they are.
Wow, they are.
They're very small. And then when you add water, they get to be like this.
That's pretty good size.
So, and this is the whole idea. When you water your container, the water absorbs in these crystals and they expand like this and adds extra water in the flower bed for your plants to use between waterings.
Okay.
So it does help keep your plants healthy in between waterings and make you not have to water the bed so much.
Okay. Smart. I
So
like that.
we're going to incorporate these within the first 6 inches of this container because we don't need to go all the way down because the roots don't go but around 6 or so inches.
Okay.
And that's where the majority of the roots are going to be, so that's where we want to put these crystals.
Okay.
So we'll sprinkle them in first.
And they just go right there on top. Okay.
Well, we're going to
You
start off with
incorporate
them on top and then we will incorporate them in.
Okay.
And by the way, this was about a tablespoon of crystals in 4 cups of water. So they go a long way.
Wow. Have you always used these?
I've always used
Okay.
them. And these will stay in the ground. You will have to replace them, but they should last about 5 years.
Okay.
So anyway, but then we're going to take them and we don't want them on top. We want to incorporate them in the bed.
And while you do that, Joellen, so what happens if you don't hydrate them first? What if you just
Well, if you don't
put
hydrate them
here
first,
and then try to water them?
and you water them, I've had people think, oh, a little goes a long way. And actually, the crystals, once they got wet, came up and poured out of the top of the plant, of the pot. And it just stood on the surface, and that wasn't going to do any good to the bed.
Okay.
Now, since we're adding herbs, we're going to add some herbs that are perennial and one that's a biannual, which will have to be replaced. And they will stay evergreen all winter and summer long.
Okay.
And in fact, to have a little bit of structure to the garden, we're going to plant a rosemary in the center for some height.
Okay. And while you do that, Joellen, so let's let the folks know, what do we mean by perennial and biennial?
Perennials will come back every year.
Okay.
Biannuals live for 2 years and then they die.
Okay.
And you have to replace them.
Okay.
And that's what our parsley is we'll be planting. Parsley is a biannual.
All right. Getting the gloves ready. Gotta
Get
have
my
the
gloves.
All right.
I always wear gloves. And I'm going to pull this gently out of the pot, and you'll see it's a little bit root bound, but not bad. If you want to leave this in, you can, or you can take it out. It doesn't matter. We only have one plant in here. We're going to rough up these roots a little bit, spread them out. And we're going to plant it just at the soil surface. We don't want to bury it.
Aha, okay. So let the roots get out.
Let the roots get out, but just plant it at the soil surface. And next we will plant the parsley. We have 2 of them here. These are little root bound too. We'll work on them a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Just separate the roots just a little bit. We want them to go out and not around like the bottom of the container.
So Joellen, for our viewers, if they're in the store and they're looking for, some plant material, they're looking for the white roots, right?
White roots.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And we're going to plant these together like they're one big plant.
Huh. Okay.
And next we're going to plant the other herb, which is a chive.
Okay.
And you can keep cutting on these and it will keep growing out. Sometimes, but these are supposed to be perennial, so you shouldn't have to replace them, but if you do need to, you can.
Okay. And again, nice white fibrous roots.
Nice. This one, these aren't root bound or anything. They can
Yeah,
just
those are
plant those
nice.
just like that.
Yeah.
So they're very, very nice. And again, we'll plant them together, and these will keep growing outward. So these will get bigger as they stay in here, just like the rosemary will. And since you're going to be trimming on your rosemary, you can actually shape it into a nice tree conical shape if you want,
Okay.
because you're going to be trimming on it to use your herbs in your cooking.
Yeah, it smells good too. Man.
Now, a lot of times I always use marigolds. One thing, they're very cheery, they're very pretty.
Cheery.
I think they're a really good plant to have in your garden. And it works just the same way with herbs. Now, there's not a whole lot that disturbs these herbs. Now, the parsley, there's some caterpillars that like the parsley, but they become butterflies, so I kind of let them have that. And because the parsley will come back from it. It does not kill your parsley, it just defoliates it and then it'll come back.
Okay.
But when you have a 6-pack like this, a lot of times the roots will all be together, so you want to squeeze the container on all sides and gently lift the plant out, trying to keep all the root ball intact.
Yeah.
Just like this.
All right.
There we go. There's one. And these are nicely rooted. There's not too many roots. It's not too root bound. It's just got enough roots. Very good. But the marigolds there's a lot of bugs that don't like the smell of marigolds. Okay. So I kind of like to use them with the herbs just to make sure all the bad bugs don't like to get on the plants.
Okay. So it's the smell.
It's the smell of them.
Gotcha.
They have a little smell to them that the rest of some bugs just don't like. And then we will plant these again just at the soil surface. We don't want to bury them.
Yeah, those are right at the surface. Okay.
Yeah, we don't want to bury them.
That's a good lesson. I see a lot of people making that
Yeah,
mistake.
well, a lot of people bury things too deep.
it's too deep.
I'd rather have it a little bit high than too deep. And see, we got plenty of soil in here. And next, besides these, to make a little bit of color, so we've got green, and we've got yellow. Let's add some red. And because all of these plants like it on the dry side, we're going to put our red as vinca, because vinca also likes it on the dry side. Again,
Yeah.
nicely rooted, not too much. Very, very nice. We'll plant that to there. And these will all grow up and grow together, and then you'll be able to harvest all of your rosemary, your chives, and your parsley all through the growing season. And the good thing about this is it stays all winter long.
Okay.
So in the fall, when you start changing out your seasonal color, you can also change out these seasonal color, but leave your herbs in, so you can continue to use them.
Okay. Good idea.
And I like to set things out first to see how evenly spaced it is in the bed, and then we plant again. Watch the crown of plants. You want to plant them at the soil surface and not below it. Once you've loosened up the soil and put those soil crystals in the bed, you can almost don't even need a trowel. You can just plant these with your hands.
Yeah.
It's all nice and loose.
Good.
Now you can put this container, you actually could use this on your front porch if you wanted to. You have 2 of them that match. Any kind of, you don't have to have a barrel. It can be any kind of container that you wish. But it will do well as long as you have about 4 to 6 hours of sun a day, because these
4 to 6,
vegetables
okay.
need all of this stuff likes lots of sun. Now if you have a shady place, There's very few herbs that like a lot of shade, but there might be a few out there. But everything, usually herbs-wise, likes to have sun.
So we were
expecting this to having at least 4 to 6 hours of sun a day.
And then we'll get that enjoyment. We appreciate that demonstration. We can't wait to see what this is going to look like throughout the growing season. Thank you.
Thank you.
When you're pruning a tree, you want to stay on the ground. And so that's why we have pole saws. Pole saws are really neat because there is a saw so you can get the larger branches. There's also a cutter so you can get smaller branches. I'm going to show you some of the places you might use that. So we're going to start out with a couple of small branches. So here's a branch that's about a 1/2 inch in diameter. So I'm just going to hook the clippers on it and just pull the rope and it cuts. Okay, let's try this branch. Okay, that one's a little bit too big for the pruners. So we're gonna flip around and we'll just use the saw here. Sometimes when you're using a pole saw, you can't quite cut exactly where you want to because there's a tree crotch in the way or a branch, but you can get pretty close and you can make that cut without having to leave the ground. Pole saws often come with a telescoping feature that lets you make them longer or shorter. This one can go out to about 12 feet, others can go longer. But if you need to cut a branch on your tree, don't get a ladder, that's dangerous, you could fall. Instead, get a pole saw.
All right, here's our Q&A segment. Y'all ready?
Yes.
These are some great questions. Here's our first viewer email. Can I cut back my small tree-sized Loropetalum without killing it? And this is Michael on YouTube. So can Michael do that?
Yeah, Michael, go for it. Get those pruners out and just start hacking away on that thing. Now, but seriously, Loropetalums respond well to rejuvenation pruning.
Yeah.
So, even if it is small tree size and you really need to take that thing down to restructure its form or just to like literally rejuvenate new life into that plant, you can certainly do that.
Yeah.
Now, the best time to do severe pruning is in what we call late winter. So here we're looking at February would be ideal. So we've missed that window at this point in time for us right now in this time of the year. So I would probably suggest that they not do that right now.
Sure.
Because juices are already flowing, saps are flowing. It has likely begun or is already fully leafed out at this point. So just keep those things in mind. I mean, if they just have to because it's like an access issue or impeding, an entry to a facility or something like that, like we do what we have to do. Go ahead, cut it back, and make sure that we're, keeping it watered well throughout the summer. But in an ideal situation, those heavy rejuvenation prunings will be done in late winter.
Late winter, yeah. And I've actually done this, to mine at home. It can handle it.
How quick did it come back?
Pretty quick.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty quick. And this is also a good time to cut back any damaged, diseased, crossing, branches, right? And I always cut above a bud, the direction that I want the branches to go, right?
Yes.
So that works. So yeah, you could do that. You could do that.
Go for it.
Michael,
Be
go
brave.
for it.
It's scary, but be brave.
Be brave, she says. All right, thank you for that question. We appreciate that. Here's our next viewer email. How do you get rid of celandine? And this is Judith from Selden, New York. She said it has taken over her garden and is popping up in the lawn. So Peter, can we help out Miss Judith?
Yes, we can. There are a couple things you can do. Celandine or celandine, depending, is an invasive weed. It does like to take over. Natively, it likes to live along the margins of the forest, especially in moist areas. So probably having a little less moisture would help there.
Okay.
Probably won't make it go away though. It is a spring ephemeral, so it'll pop up when you get to the heat of summer, it goes away.
Okay.
The problem that it has though is, in the forest at least, is that it goes in and it kind of crowds out all of the other ephemerals where it takes over. It spreads by everything you can imagine. Okay, so seeds, bulblets, roots, and so it can be really hard to get rid of. So If you have a small area of it,
Okay.
you can dig it up.
Dig it up.
But you have to make sure you get all of the little bulblets.
Please do.
Otherwise, it'll be back, and I'm sure it'll have a vengeance.
I'm sure it will.
Yeah. And so you got to do that. Now, if it's a big area, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So probably the easiest way to take care of it is to spray a non-selective herbicide. You can use glyphosate when it is first coming up in the spring. And when it's actively growing, that will help take care of it. You probably will have to do multiple applications over multiple years.
I'm sure you will.
But eventually you can win. Now, in this case, it's in her garden and in her lawn, so you can't just go spraying glyphosate everywhere.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
And so what I would do is I would use the wipe technique. Just take glyphosate, put it on you can just dip a paintbrush right in the concentrate, or you can put it on a sponge wearing gloves.
Yeah.
And just kind of touch all of your celandine, and come back a week later. Anything that doesn't look like it's dying, just go through it again.
Yeah.
Just do that over and over and over again. When you get to the end of the spring, it'll all die because the heat comes. Next year, do the same thing. You'll probably be able to, after a few years, get control over that and get rid of it.
Yeah, hopefully so. Celeste, Peter, that was fun.
Yay!
That was fun. Thank you much. Thank you much. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is questions@familyplotgarden.com. And the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee, 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. If you want to learn more about planting, growing, and harvesting vegetables and herbs, head on over to familyplotgarden.com. We have hundreds of videos to help you out. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.